Just a Concerned Citizen by Damos on AO3. Chapter 3 Phone Call. Izuku squinted at his inbox. The last batches of responses had been weird. From Pinky at hero.net to Concerned Citizen 81904 at gpmail.com. Subject: Re. Illegal dumping in Shiyu. Thank you so much for the info, Mr. Concerned Citizen. Is it alright if I call you Mr.? Or do you want to go by something else? Was he being tested? He didn't know how else to take that. And then there was the other one. From Xylophone at hero.net to Concerned Citizen 81904. Subject: Re. String of burglaries. You've been super helpful so far. Would be easier if you just worked at the agency, though. I could put in a good word for you if you apply. That one had to be some kind of joke. Or rather, both replies had been clear efforts to get more information about him. But there was no way in hell Izuku was going to do that. He knew that this only lasted for as long as the people listening to him didn't realize who and what he was. He closed out his inbox without replying to either messages. These days, Izuku spent more time on the dark web than he did on hero forums. It had been 2 months of small, precious victories, of awkward emails teasing him for more information, and warning him away from criminal activity, no matter how thoroughly he showed that all his information was right there, easy to be found. 2 months of building a, frankly, pretty weird reputation. The heroes trusted his information, even as they tried to figure out reasons not to. They, without fail, solved the things he sent to them, even while thinking he was a villain. It stung, a little, to know that his heroes were suspicious of him, but not enough to make him stop. For once in his life, he felt excited to go home after work. Better they thought he was someone evil and listened to him than realize he was useless and stop. Tonight, he was following the same routine. Izuku rubbed at his eyes, tired from staring at his laptop screen. Would it kill these illegal sites to have dark modes? He jumped at the cheerful ping of a notification. In his searching, Izuku had found several chat rooms. Most of them were only sparingly active, but he kept opening them anyways, just in case. Usually it was nothing. Another person like him who stumbled into the wrong place. But this time, the chat room in question hadn't been used once since he found it, until now. There was a photo of a woman, dressed snappily, high ponytail and skin with blue and black spotches. The picture was grainy, like it was taken from far away and had been zoomed in. Izuku didn't recognize her, but he recognized the street. The bookstore he worked at was the grainy in the background, but it was most certainly the same place. The photo must have been taken from the park across the street. His heart jumped into his throat at the message that flashed onto the screen next. 188166. Natura Street, heading east. 188166. Streets, physical poison from skin. 188166. Get going. Yeah, that was the street. He could run there in under 5 minutes, and he usually did when he woke up on late days. He didn't know what they were planning on doing to her, but whatever it was happening now. His hand shook as he opened the program he'd been using to send messages to heroes. From Concerned Citizen 81904 to a void voice at hero.net. Battle.fist at hero.net. Can't stop twinkling at hero.net. And 35 others. Subject: urgent. Kidnapping/murder. Just got some info that needs to be acted on right away. The woman in the photo is being targeted for some reason. Nakuri Street, heading east. Please help her. Image attached. He hit the send button and stared at it for a long minute, the anxiety building in his chest only growing worse. That was it. That was all someone like him could do, right? The heroes had been good at listening to him so far, but he had sent the message so late in the day, he knew most of the heroes on the list weren't patrolling anymore. Those few who were probably won't be anywhere nearby. They wouldn't get to her in time. Izuku picked up his phone with a shaky hand and looked at the dark screen, reading his pitched face back at him. Maybe he could go to that street, see if she was okay. Maybe the message didn't mean anything. Maybe it did. And he should go run down the street right now and... Izuku stood jerkily, the chair falling behind him on its back. He wouldn't be able to save her. He knew that. But he could call for help. Buy her some time. Do something. It did not occur to him that it was the first time he tried doing something like this since he was 15. There were a lot of corny little stories online about pro heroes in their younger days, about them moving without thinking. A 5-minute sprint was a long time to move without thinking, but Izuku managed it mostly because the only thing he could think about was that whoever she was in danger. He was already gasping for air when he reached the intersection of the street and alleyway. The bookstore he worked at, where she had been, was only a few storefronts away. Eastbound, wasn't it? He tried to look a little more casual as he started making his way down the street. If anyone actually looked at him, they'd see him still red-faced and trying to catch his breath, eyes darting nervously back and forth as he looked for someone in trouble. But he didn't stand out too badly. It was Friday night in a college town. Groups of kids were wandering the streets doing whatever it was college kids did. Izuku hadn't ever been invited to those things, but he was pretty sure that they involved alcohol. He forced himself to slow his frantic pace as he looked at the people he was walking past. Maybe she had gone into the bar. Should he go into one to find her? That would be bad, though. It would be really easy for someone to get her in private if she had gone there. He slowed to a stop before he realized what he was doing. Why was he out here? Why did he think he could be able to do anything? He choked down the lump in his throat and forced his feet to keep moving so no one would stare at him. It was just a few messages, with no proof to back them up. He had emailed a bunch of heroes and wasted their time, and they would never listen to him now. His stream of self-deprivation stopped at once with a sudden realization. There, at the noodle stand at the corner of the street, filled with tipsy patrons, and light and laughter, there, sitting at the stool in the middle, legs visible under the barriers hanging from the roof, Izuku saw the blue and black spotched skin of the girl in the photo. Okay, she was okay. With fumbling hands, Izuku reached into his pocket of his hood to pull out his phone, dialing the number for the police and holding a finger over the call button. The moment something weird happened, he would call them. That was all he could do. He knew he was being creepy, but he made his way over to the wall opposite and leaned against it, trying to make it look like he was looking at his phone and not at the people sitting at the stands. It didn't take all that long before she stood up, and she didn't stand up alone. The man next to her stood up too. He was tall, dark clothes with long sleeves, and the leather gloves, and he had one arm slung over the woman's shoulder to make sure she was pulled close. He couldn't catch the woman's expression before they turned away from him, walking down the street opposite to the most of the dwindling traffic. Oh, Izuku realized. Oh no. There was a chance that maybe the guy was her boyfriend, or some nice guy she met tonight, but knowing what he knew, he didn't think that was the case. He stood up and started following, hand with the phone shaking. He should just call. This was a better safe than sorry situation. If he was wrong, he would rather ride out the embarrassment that would be right, and would not have to do anything. And if it wasn't wrong, the police being here would probably stop whatever else was going to happen. A shaky finger pressed the call button. What's your emergency? Izuku pulled the phone close to his face, spoke lowly so that no one would look at him. Nayama Street by the noodle stand. I think that there's a guy trying to take advantage of someone? He should have paid attention to what was being said on the other line, but he realized that even the small distraction led to him losing the two he'd been watching. He picked up the pace, brain racing. She's got long black hair and, black pumps? He mumbled into the receiver, ignoring whatever the operator had told him. Anything some kind of frog or toad quirk? She's got blue and black ambergris skin. I don't know what the guy looks like, but he's wearing dark scuff. I know he knows about her quirk because he covered up all his skin. He spotted them again, further down the street, turning into an alley, and without thinking, he started to run. The man noticed him, of course. Izuku wasn't doing a damn thing to seem less conspicuous. He shot Izuku a glare that could kill, but he stopped moving, and as far as Izuku was concerned, that was a win. He could buy time. "What are you following us for, buckhead?" The man spat. If he hadn't already seemed suspicious, he was wearing a surgical mask and a set of mirrored sunglasses in the middle of the night. His voice shook with nerves, but that was an occurrence so old he knew how to power through it. "I thought I recognized the girl with you. I think we were same biology class." It was a lie. He didn't know where or if she went to school, but the girl's reaction would let him know if she knew she was in danger, and it seemed like she didn't, based on the sidelong glance she gave him from around the man's shoulder. "I don't think so." But she said it in a way that had no finality, like she really wasn't sure if she should know him or not. Yeah, I guess you might not recognize me. I know I'm kind of plain looking. Just keep talking. Just keep them here long enough for someone to do something." But Himiko-chan was getting a group together, so going out for drinks tomorrow and wanted to invite you, but no one could catch up to you after class. But when I saw you here, I thought I could invite you. His voice wavered as the man took his arms off the woman to face him, fists curling into something angry. Oh, but that was good. If he wasn't touching her, she could get away. "You got a fucking problem, man? We're a little busy." He put one hand up, the other still holding the phone, gripping it tight with hopes that the operator had dispatched someone, and took a sharp step back. He hated that he knew what he was doing, hated that he knew it would bait the man to take a step closer to him and away from her. Some distance part of his brain screamed at him that he was doing it again. He had to run between the bully and the bullied, and that had never helped anyone. But he was too deep to stop now. "You're in danger. Someone's trying to hurt you. Please, run." He saw the woman's expression shift to shock at the same time. He saw the fist flying towards his face. Izuku stumbled backwards at the hit, phone flying from his hand to clatter on the pavement, and back hitting not a wall or the ground, but another body, and oh, he knew how this usually went. Down the street, there was a flash of blue and red. The blaring of a police siren, and the fingers wrapping around his arms, were released before they could leave bruises. The man in the dark jacket strung a few curses together before bolting down the alley he had been pulling the woman down, and whoever it was behind him decided that it was a good idea because they followed right after. The woman was staring at him with wide eyes, and Izuku's thoughts went something like this. "Oh, that's nice. That never worked before. I wonder if I just got lucky with the police, or if they like to patrol this place because of college kids. If I'm here when the police get here, they're going to want to ask me questions and I won't be able to answer them. If they question me, someone might realize who I am. If someone knows who I am, no one will let me help anymore." Why was panic crawling his throat worse from that thought that ran overhead than what he had just been through? Flag them down," he choked out. "Make sure you get somewhere safe." And then he was running, too, in the opposite direction. When he got back to his apartment, he was shaky and exhausted, and it was over an hour later, but he was recitably sure that he hadn't been followed, and if he had, well, they would have had a hell of a time waking him up. When Hitoshi got to the scene, there was already an ambulance there, which was rarely a good sign. He swung down from a building across the street and sauntered over. No blood, no bodies, only a singular squat car. No one had called for a hero, except for a panicked stranger, who had, up until now, only asked for help when there was so much proof that it was needed that it couldn't possibly be denied. How could whatever had happened here be so big and so small at the same time? He made no effort to hide himself as he walked up to the scene, making sure he caught the eye of the older officer, graying hair pulled back into a tight bun, leaning on the back of her squat car and examining something on a clipboard. Hitoshi didn't know her name, but he had worked around her enough times to know that she recognized him as a pro, and indeed, when she looked up and saw him, her nose wrinkled in distaste. Please don't tell me this is more complicated than some college kids getting into trouble. It is, he confirmed. She sighed and pinched the nose of her bridge. They went through the motions. He pulled his hero license out from his pocket on the side of his coat. She checked it with a grimace. They had been through this song and dance enough times for Hitoshi to know that even though she had just read his hero name, she would keep calling him the Eraserhead Kid. He took the license back, and she closed her eyes, like the whole ordeal had caused her an unbearable amount of stress. We got a call for a possible sex assault about 15 minutes ago, but the guy on the line didn't give us his name. Just the street and info about the people involved, not himself. 3 people fled the scene when we hit the lights, but I saw someone get pretty decked hard, so we called EPS, just to be safe. The young lady in the ambulance is the one who flagged us down. We haven't questioned her yet. I assume you want to be present? Yeah, this was what he had been afraid of. He nodded. One of those people who ran, possibly the person who made the call, is a possible vigilante. To the officer's credit, she didn't outwardly do anything to imply that it was the worst news she had heard all night. She gestured to the back of the ambulance, and they walked around the side. The woman sitting on the bench was absolutely the woman in the photo of the email. She had a scratchy shock blanket pulled over her shoulders, though she mostly just looked nervous. Pro Hero Mind Jack. He bobbed his head. Just came to make sure you're okay. Which was not the entire truth, but saying anything more right now would only freak her out more, which was not what she needed. Do you mind if we ask you some questions? Her name was Oi Nakano. She had decided to go out for dinner and met a guy who she thought she had clicked with. He said he had some kind of mutation quirk, so he wore a mask, but claimed that he'd show her his face in private. He'd asked if she would be more comfortable going to his apartment, or hers, and she said that his was fine. He really sounded like an honest guy, so he started leading her that way. And that's when the other man had ran up to them. He was, a little plain, she said, embarrassed. He actually said that himself, but I remember he had this dark, curly hair. He ran up to us and started saying all this weird stuff like we knew each other, but I think that somehow he knew what was going to happen, so he got punched as soon as he told me I was in danger. She paused, looked down at her hands. I thought he was just being rude until the police showed up. I didn't even notice the third guy until he was running. Hitoshi let himself smile behind his mask. He had been wondering if his concerned citizen had been the one to throw or take the punch. Nakano chewed on her lip for a moment longer, and then pulled a phone from inside the fold of the blanket. It looked old, the case was beaten and faded, and the screen had a narrow crack running across the corners. I think this was his. He had it in his hand, but he dropped it when he, got hit. Hitoshi took it and hit the power button. 43 battery, and a lock screen photo of a landscape that was probably taken from the top of Tokyo Sky Egg. No notifications. If you find him, could you maybe thank him for me? The girl shivered. I think something bad would have happened if he didn't show up when he did. Hitoshi nodded. Will do. Well, that's the only thing that happened here tonight. We can prove was an assault, which means that the person who can press charges has run off. The policewoman gave Hitoshi a mean side-eye. Which means that we can't easily get a hold of the security footage, unfortunately. Hitoshi held up the phone. I think I could get what I need from this. Thanks. He then turned to Nakado. Do you want someone to escort you home? She blinked at him. That's okay. I'm sure you have patrol to get back to or something. He does, the policewoman agreed. But we're heading back for the night, so we can drop you off. A compromise for someone deflecting, a tactic that had been used on Hitoshi plenty of times in high school days. Oh, sure, I guess. She accepted the hand down and over to the squat car. Hitoshi offered a slight bow of his head to the ambulance driver, and a nod to the police officer who very professionally did not roll her eyes at him, before disappearing into the alley and releasing his capture weapon so he could swing himself back up onto the rooftops. The police showing up had scared everyone away. Not that they were usually anything more interesting than drunks acting disorderly around here at this hour. So, sure, he had patrol to get back to, but he had another thing to deal with too. He retrieved his own phone from another internal pocket and unlocked it, eyebrows going up at the notifications of a private message from Denki. Hitoshi was wholly unsurprised that he was still up this late. Pikachu 2. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention it, but I got a really funny email from your citizen project the other day. They sent this stuff for a case that was helpful, and I know you said you wanted more info about them. So I was like, oh, hey, by the way, you a villain? And they just sent me back an email saying, no, LMAO, they are normally so polite. But yeah, I mean, I guess they're not a villain, lol. Tired TM. Incredible. Really, your investigation skills are unmatched. On that note, wanna help me hack a phone? Okay, that ended up being way shorter than I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be 35 minutes long. Ended up being 22 minutes long. Okay. The little scrolly bar very much is bamboozling me right now because this person's writing style, with paragraphs specifically, is a bit different than what I'm used to. Therefore, the scrolly is a different length. So, yeah. Funny, haha. But as I was gonna say, this video is an hour late. My bad. I was entertained in what's it called? I was a little busy inside a voice call, so yeah, I was in a voice call in my Discord server with other people, and we were having a fun time talking and stuff, so I got a little sidetracked there. Or, not sidetracked. I knew I was getting sidetracked. I knew I was procrastinating. I just didn't want to leave. But yeah, this fanfic's very interesting, so phone hacking, so maybe the meeting of Hitoshi and Izuku is gonna happen soon. But yeah, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.